buckle up. It's time to take the trip, buckle up.
You're listening to the Take the Trip podcast, where you'll find real talk and zero filter. I'm your host, Kendra Fogarty, and today I'm here with Trisha DiPasquale of Mrs. DiPasquale. Trisha, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited for this conversation because your life is this really unique blend of education and travel in a way that most people don't even think is possible. And the gift that you bring to your students with the Passport Adventures is so beautiful and heartwarming. And I'm just really excited to learn more about your journey.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. So I do want to start at the beginning. You've been teaching for a pretty decent amount of time, right? And you've clearly always had a love for helping kids learn. But tell us a little bit about where this travel piece comes in.
Sure, of course. I have been a teacher now for 19 years. Previously, I've taught second grade and third grade, and now I teach kindergarten. So I've always been with like the early childhood, lower elementary grades. And I come from a family full of teachers. So my mom was a teacher, my sister, my brother-in-law, they're all teachers. And my sister, when she was in college, got an opportunity to study abroad and student teach in Shanghai, China. My family thought she was a little crazy at the time. Like, why would she go halfway around the world to teach? But she went, she loved it, had a great time. And then when I was in college and about to start my final semester of college, it was time for my student teaching placement. My sister was living in China. She moved to China and Shanghai with her husband, and they were teaching at that same school that she'd had that experience at. And so she suggested that I go and study abroad and teach at their school for my student teaching. So my university approved of that. And so I spent spring semester teaching kids at an international school in Shanghai. So I taught 4-year-olds up to 8-year-olds from about 15 different countries. Yeah, just from all over the world. And it was a real eye-opener experience for me. My conversations with those kids, they were conversations about time zones and jet lag. Their spring breaks, we're going to places like Egypt, ride camels. Like those things were all just normal conversations that I had with those kids. It'd be perfectly acceptable for a kid to come in on a Monday morning jet lagged because they flew back to their home country like the week before, and now they were back in school adjusting to the time zone there in Shanghai. And so that was a real eye-opener for me. And I realized after I had that experience that why couldn't I have conversations like that with kids in the US? And so because I was there in Shanghai for the Lunar New Year, I every year would do a unit with my students about the Lunar New Year. And so I would teach them just about the things that I'd learned about Chinese culture and everything, especially for that big holiday and a celebration. And so every year, it just became this thing where I would teach my students about the Chinese New Year. We'd decorate the classroom with souvenirs and stuff that I'd bring back from my trips visiting my sister and stuff over the years. And my students' excitement really just is what led to what it is now. When I was teaching kindergarten, I decided one year, you know what, let's teach kids just how long it takes for them to fly to a place like China. Let's help them understand just how big the world is. So I told my teaching assistant, you know what, let's pretend to fly these kids. We're going to change the classroom, transform it into an airplane. You and I are going to be flight attendants. And we're going to devote an entire school day pretending like we're flying to China. The kids are going to be uncomfortable sitting in their little airplane seats and, in the classroom the whole day. They're going to do their classwork on their laps and eat their meals on their laps. And so we did it. We had a fantastic time. Those kids loved it. And then every year it just kind of expanded to what it is now, what I share on my social media. I was going on a trip though with my husband. We love to travel. I was going to be missing about a week and a half of school. That's a lot of school to miss for a teacher. Awful creating sub plans for that long of a time, but kind of made up for it with my principal by saying, I'm going to make some videos for the kids on this trip to show them these places that I'm going to go to. And so I remember making a video for my students in front of the Roman Colosseum. I sent it to my teaching assistant who was at school at the time. She showed it to the kids and they loved seeing where I was. That kind of led into me thinking, you know what, I need to share more of my travels with these kids and start telling them about these adventures, just about traveling in general. So from then on, every time my husband and I traveled somewhere, I would make a video specifically for my class. My school parents, classroom parents were following me on Instagram. And so that was the quickest way just to kind of get it out there to all of the families. And the kids loved it. And our social studies curriculum was kind of lacking a bit back then. And so I needed more substance, or I needed more things to expand on and kind of stretch out that curriculum a bit. And so every Friday it just became this fun way for us to wrap up the week. I would teach my students about a place that I had been, share some pictures with them, maybe a few stories, and then they would draw a picture of themselves being in that place. And eventually we just started calling it Passport Adventures. Teaching in 2020, 21 school year was a hard year with the pandemic. I had students that were learning virtually from home and students that were in my classroom. And I had to find ways to make my virtual students feel as if they were a part of our class for these social studies lessons. So that got me to start recording myself, thinking more about how could other kids not in the classroom with me still have these similar experiences. So that was when I really called them Passport Adventures, started creating those lessons. And so as tough as that school year was during the pandemic, I was spending hours upon hours after school every day to recording these lessons and stuff for my virtual students. And that was a really big learning curve for me. And it was a really big push for me to do what I'm doing now. So now I have Passport Adventures where I, have over 35 different destinations that teach kids about places around the world through the use of imagination. So they pretend like they are actually traveling there with me, and they learn about real places around the world that hopefully they'll get to visit someday.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I love that. There's so much to unpack right there. So thank you for sharing that rundown. First, I just love hearing where people have caught the travel bug. So you have just a very unique story and going to China and being able to teach there. So I love that. And I love how you were then like, well, I caught the bug, but now I also need to share this with all the children in my life. So I love that. And also just major props to you. Kindergarten, I think a lot of people who are not in education thinks that's the easiest grade level. I would argue all day long that that's the most challenging grade level, K through 12, hands down, to deal with. So just amazing that you're able to do everything you need to do with kindergartners and then on top of it, enrich their lives with this way. That's just so beautiful. And also, yes, COVID, oh my gosh, COVID for teachers, unbelievable. I was working in education at that time and that broke me, certainly. And then, I was able to hang on for, I guess, a year after we were fully back, but everything had changed so much. And well, and then my role had just changed and et cetera, et cetera. It was just so hard. So just amazing that you were able to power through that and you were able to adapt and be flexible and even improve your curriculum somehow during the point of that. So that is truly just amazing. So like creating your Passport Adventures, that is just not a small idea. Like that's full on reimagining how kids are experiencing education. And I just have to say, so like I was actually crying watching the videos of your students. It was just so touching. I love that you are sharing that gift with them. It's amazing. I am curious. So like the reaction from your students, seeing the videos of them and their reactions is just so great. So I am just kind of like curious, like what feedback do the like kids share with you or even the parents or like what kind of fuels you to keep on going? Because I know that as just any teachers, it is just an insane amount of work to keep up with everything you need to do. So then to do all of this on top of it, it's clear that that's a true passion of yours. But I am just curious how their reactions are.
My students are the driving force for what I do. I would not do 100%. I would not do what I do if it weren't for them and their enthusiasm for learning about the world. We pretend like we travel somewhere every Friday. Every Friday is a Passport Adventure Day. And we talk about that place all week long, just in little conversations here and there. And they are able to recall these places around the world months after we've been there, after we've had this lesson. Just today, one of my students, we pretended to go to Auckland, New Zealand back in September. And one of my students was absent that day. And I had the students that day make little kiwi birds as a craft, just a little art activity. And one of my students today came up to me and was like, "Can I make my kiwi? Because I wasn't here when you guys went to New Zealand." And I'm like, "We went to New Zealand like back in September. How do you remember that?" And she's like, "Because it was on the board. Like I'd hung up their artwork for like a couple of weeks afterwards." And so I guess I didn't realize to her every day she saw those kiwis up on display and knew she didn't have one up there. I can say to my students, let's name 10 different countries. And right away, everyone has their hands up and I'll say, let's see if we can not repeat any. And Sure enough, they're calling out all these different countries, England, Sweden, Egypt, all these different places around the world. They're just remembering them because they've had these experiences, these travel moments where, they've pretended to ride camels around the Giza pyramids, or they pretended to go dog sledding just in Fairbanks, Alaska. We just did that recently. And as a result of that, their parents are saying things to me too, like, well, we're in South Florida. We're about 3 hours away from Disney World. And so everyone goes to Disney for vacation. Well, now the parents say things to me like, well, Mrs. DiPasquale, now my kid wants to go to Paris and have a picnic under the Eiffel Tower instead of going to Paris and, the Eiffel Tower in Walt Disney World at Epcot. And I just love that so much because these kids are going home talking and sharing these places that they want to visit and travel to with their families. I've had some parents before take their kids on their very first airplane ride that summer after they left my classroom because of our Flight to China Day. I've gotten videos from my student on the airplane, the actual airplane for their first time, and they'll even have it. It's almost as if they're talking to me like I'm in the seat right next to them. They're showing me what it looks like out their airplane window. And then I also, too, over the years, have gotten videos from kids on actual trips. I've had a student once go to Costa Rica and he was filming his walk down a sidewalk, and the camera, now he was 5, so the camera was mostly angled down at the sidewalk, but he wanted to show me what it looked like in Costa Rica. I've had a student take me on a tour of her grandparents' farm in Colombia. Just this past Christmas, I had a student go to Colorado skiing, and she sent me a video. Her parents filmed her downhill skiing in Colorado, and they had a little microphone on her, and she's just narrating her whole ride down, and she's skiing just effortlessly. And she's saying oh, look, there's some pine trees, Mrs. DiPasquale, and she's just cruising down this mountain so easily. And so it's meant so much to me to just have these students just now kind of taking me on their own little passport adventures. So the response that I've gotten from my class parents and from my students has just been absolutely wonderful. And it's the driving force for why I want to keep doing what I do.
I love that. It makes so much sense. My kids were also binge watching your content. Okay. And they were in the zone. They were tuned in. And then they were like, well, if we weren't homeschooled, I want her as my teacher. And I, had to explain how that is complicated. And I was almost worried about them watching your content though, because I'm are they going to revolt against homeschooling and they're going to insist on going back to school? That'll kind of mess up my travel plans here.
We're giving them fantastic experiences. That's amazing.
Yeah, we have fun. But I had to, explain that what you're doing is just so special and that that's not what school looks like typically. So I do have some questions about it though.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Fridays you do your travel thing, because I was wondering about that, because one major challenge just being an educator is cramming in the curriculum the state's telling you you're going to teach. So I was just kind of curious, is it a public school? Is your administration just awesome? You're just kind of able, it's probably full day kindergarten. So that's where it kind of allows you that some of the extra time.
Yeah, I teach at a private school. So I do have that flexibility where we can kind of tailor our curriculum to, how we see fit, which is a blessing, a huge blessing. Admin, they see the results. They see how excited kids are in kindergarten to learn about the world. They hear what their parents are saying. Everybody's happy. The kids are learning. And what people often don't realize, what I share on social media is what I have created. It's like my passport adventures. It's my lessons. I'm not posting videos of our math class or our reading class because that's the curriculum that's been assigned for us to use. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that curriculum. It's just not mine. Passion is teaching kids about the world. Love teaching the other subjects. Love being the one that gets to teach these kids how to read and do all these things. But what I'm sharing is often from one lesson a week, I just find little moments to kind of, to stretch that out and to showcase it. I've got a lot to show.
So much sense too, because it's when you look at your page, you're overwhelmed with my gosh, that classroom is insane. But of course, you're not going to share the spelling test or whatever. That's not going to be super great content. Right. And it's kind of the same in this lifestyle where people be like, oh, you guys are always on an adventure. And it's well, no, I work too. But if I shared a video of me just sitting on my computer, I don't think that you would be real thrilled by it.
People don't realize too, I have about roughly a minute 30 seconds at most to share a reel, on Instagram of what we do. And so there's a lot of content that I can get from things. And I will say too, I do have to give a major shout out because my classroom parents at the beginning of every school year, I explain to them, what I do, because I also speak at different teacher conferences. And so I talk about and share ideas with other educators about how to teach kids about the world, how to bring the world into their classrooms. And so I explained that at the beginning of the school year that, I do like to record our social studies lessons, and I explain to parents, what it's used for. And I do have a waiver that have parents sign on. And so every child that you see on my social media, I have permission from their parents to use their child's footage. They know that I don't ever name names on, the kids and anything like that. And I try to be really respectful of things. I also don't want my students to feel like the camera's on them, front and center all the time. I make it be a part of our just something that's just a part of our lesson. And they also understand too that I use pictures and videos and stuff of theirs to help other teachers have these experiences with their students. And so sometimes they actually get excited when they see the tripod. They're like, oh, this means that other kids are going to get to do this. So I have to really give a lot of credit to those parents, because if I didn't have their permission, obviously I wouldn't be sharing what I am. So I do have some parents that wish not to, that opt out of that. They don't want their kids on social media, and that's completely fine. I respect that. But I do need to give a major shout out to my parents who have let me over the years use footage of their children, because when a teacher sees my content, sometimes I think what helps is that suddenly they can picture their own students that maybe are showing similar characteristics or qualities. They're like, oh, this person, my student would love to do this or something like that. And so it definitely helps having the kids be a part of the content, just seeing how engaged they are with learning about the world.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. I do wonder, are there many parents, though, that regularly request to have you?
My school is a small school, and so I am the only kindergarten teacher.
Well, that works out well.
Yeah,
You don't have to
I
worry
do
about
love that
any.
because I do think about that too. What if I had to work with other kindergarten teachers? What if they
Yeah.
didn't use this, and then all of a sudden we're trying to find a balance of how to do what? So I'm thankful I don't have to worry about that.
Okay, that helps. I was wondering about how coworkers would feel in that situation too, because I also once ran into situations with teachers, although we were union. I don't know if it works the same for private school, but they were very upset because there was kind of a teacher who was going above and beyond, and they were like, no, 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 we can't do that. And it was very tense. So glad you don't have to worry about
Me too.
that. Yes. Okay, so before we talk a little bit more about your travel stories, let's play a little game. It's called
Okay.
Live, Visit, Exile. So I'm going to give you 3 locations, and I would like you to choose the one you would live in, the one you would just visit, and then the one that you would exile that you could never return to again. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay.
So the first one, Australia, England, and Thailand. So where would you live? Where would you visit? And which one would you exile never to see again?
That is so hard because you just named some of my favorite places. Man, if I had to pick one to live, gosh, I might have to go Thailand because their food is amazing and their massages are super cheap. We were getting like $5 massages for like a half hour. So
Love that.
getting a delicious pad thai with a $5 massage like right after, that was amazing. So I would say probably Thailand to live in. I definitely have more places I want to explore in England. So I would go back to visit England for sure. Now, Australia, I loved my time there. We were there in their winter time though. So we did not see any snakes or spiders, all the things people always spread about, and talk about in Australia. We did not experience a summertime in Australia. So maybe I would choose that one to be, exiled, because I feel like we did get to explore a lot of there. I want to see the creepy crawly things that everyone talks about over there.
Hey, that's good to know. And that was helpful. Thailand's actually like the top of my bucket list. So it also feels like a sign that now I need to make that happen, that you're saying that's where you
Go to Chiang Mai, New Year's Eve. They have a lantern festival. They have another one too during the year. I don't remember when it was, but we were there for New Year's Eve in Chiang Mai, and they set off the floating lanterns up into the sky. And it is just the most beautiful sight ever.
That sounds incredible. Okay, good tip. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right, and another one. Dubai, Jordan, and Scotland. Where would you live? Where would you just visit? And where would you exile?
I would live in Scotland. I loved the Scottish Highlands, and Edinburgh was one of my favorite cities. We got to stay right on Loch Ness, and that was just absolutely beautiful. I would love to go back to visit Jordan. We were in Jordan for just a few nights, saw Petra, and then got to go to the Dead Sea on the Jordanian side. Dubai probably could do without. We did. Now, I do say a lot of places that you visit, it really just depends on the time of year if you're going at the right time. We were in Dubai in late May one year, and it was super hot by then already. I felt like my eyeballs were just getting like sucked dry. It was so hot there. And so we had a fun time, but I do think that going a different time of year probably would have been better. But if I had to choose which one to not go back to out of those 3, it probably would be that one.
Okay, good to know. Had you had any Dubai chocolate while you were there or when you've been here? Have you seen that trend?
I have not, no.
Okay, this is coming up everywhere. And the first time I saw it, I think it was like in a checkout register thing. So there's like this candy bar and it was literally $25. And I was like, I'm suddenly really interested because I'm just a chocoholic. So I'm like, Tell me more about why I need this $25 chocolate bar," which I really can never justify buying, but it was intriguing. And then I keep seeing it now. Like it's like pistachio or something. It's like
Did you
this
try it?
Dubai, like I didn't try it. I could not go for a $25 chocolate bar. I don't know how I'd explain that to my husband, but I am really interested in finding out if it happens to be worth it and why it is considered Dubai chocolates.
Like I might
Interesting.
splurge for that if I was like over there because I'd be like, I'm on vacation. I got to try this. But
Yeah.
I would have a hard time with that one here.
No, it's like Walgreens. I didn't know if they could quite sell it on me, but now I've also seen it like an ice cream flavor at different shops too. So I'm kind of like, okay, this is interesting.
Keep my
Eventually, I'm
mouth.
going to have to try it. All right. So back to your story. So you have traveled so many places and then you turn these real experiences into these incredible lessons for your kids. And I am curious, when you travel now, are you experiencing it differently because you know you're going to teach it later, or how has that affected like your travel experience?
It definitely makes me rethink our whole trip. We now pick places to go to based on where I want to create lessons for, places where I feel like I need more, from that area. So last summer, we went to South America for about 3 weeks. We went to Peru, and Colombia for just briefly, but then we spent a lot of time in Peru and in Chile and Ecuador too. And because I didn't have anything for South America, we'd never been to South America before. And so we went and we did Machu Picchu and Rainbow Mountain and stuff in Peru. And I created lessons for that. I like to create the lessons kind of ahead of time before I go. And it's kind of like doing just trip plan, like you would with trip planning. Like when you go on a trip, if you're the type A trip planner like I am, I want to know all these sites ahead of time that we're going to go to make sure that we can get in there and visit those places. And so, yes, I basically create the lesson ahead of time, thinking of places that kids would want to learn about. Usually things that, geography related, what's special, what's unique to that area, also different important like landmarks, things like that are worth seeing. And then I am pretending as if I've got students traveling with me. So we travel. My husband is known as the Passport Adventures cameraman. He's extremely patient because we have lots of outtakes while we're there. But yeah, we put a microphone on me and we start recording, and I just talk as if the kids are right there with me, So instead of saying, look at this picture of the Giza pyramids, it's like, look, everybody, like we're here in front of the Giza pyramids. Go ahead, take your cameras and take pictures, because it's all through imagination. They're pretending, to be there with me too. And so yeah, it's definitely changed how I travel, how I look at travel, just kind of thinking, what is it that kids would like? 2 summers ago, we went to New Zealand and Australia. We were in Christchurch, and I was looking around on a map trying to figure out like where could I showcase, like what would kids be interested in? And I just happened to come across the Margaret Mahy playground on my map, and I was like, that kind of looks like a big playground. I click on it. Sure enough, I discover it's the largest playground in the Southern Hemisphere. And so I'm like, we have to go to that. And it was only like a 5-minute walk from our hotel. So we went to this playground, my husband and I, and it is the coolest playground I've ever seen. The slide is massive. I climbed up the slide, like squeezing through different parts, and it's just like the coolest slide ever. And so we were playing on the playground equipment and recording ourselves. I went on, they had a little kiddie zip line. I went on it with our camera. So when kids watch these videos then, because I incorporate all these videos into the lessons, kids were actually like, look, it feels like for kids, like they're on the zip line with me. I climbed up, I shimmied my way up that huge slide with my camera so that kids could actually feel like they were climbing up it too and then going down the slide with me. So we were these two adults playing on this huge kids playground. But you know what? Other grown-ups and stuff were there too with their kids. And we were the only people there without kids, but there were so many other people just all playing on the playground too that it was okay. It worked. Yes. So sometimes we play on playground equipment if it's appropriate. And, we're always kind of doing things that would just be interesting for kids too.
Oh my gosh, I just love that. How fun. It probably has you doing things you may not have done otherwise, but in like the best way. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. So I do have a question, and if it's too personal, feel free to not answer and I can cut it out. But just since it's a real talk podcast, I am just super curious. Since you also have a business, as you are able to, share these lessons with other teachers, and I imagine homeschoolers too. So I was super interested too how to implement your lessons with my own kids, and I imagine a lot of listeners would be interested in that too. But when you're taking these trips then, can you write off some of the expenses?
Yes. Yes, we
Okay, great.
can.
Okay,
That is
that's
helpful
amazing.
too.
Yeah, that's great because then you can that, like, I'm
Yeah.
sure is super beneficial too to be able to have these experiences, but since it's part of your business, that can be rolled in.
Yeah.
So, what does your travel schedule look like? How do you balance it all? Like, do you travel all summer? Is it on every break? Are there any breaks that you don't travel? Or, like, how many trips are you taking a year? What does it usually look like for you?
We try to take advantage of every time I have off of school. So the summertime, I'm not here. South Florida, I don't know if you've been to South Florida in the summertime, but it's just awful. It's so hot. It's so humid. You step outside and start sweating immediately, and it feels like you're being wrapped up in like a wet blanket. It's gross. And so I grew up in Michigan. And so a lot of times too, I like to go up to Michigan, for the summer. But that's usually the time where my husband and I do our big trips. So last summer, it was South America. Year before it was Australia, New Zealand. This summer, we just booked a cruise. We're going to the Mediterranean. And so I was super excited to get to cross off a few countries from our list of places and create lessons there. But definitely take advantage of the summertime. For me, I kind of feel like when I have those extended time, periods off of school, it's like a wasted time if I'm not traveling and not doing something. And then there are different times too during the school year where I have had to take time off for different trips. But yeah, usually over Christmas, we're traveling between Christmas and New Year's, traveling throughout the summertime, maybe taking little trips here and there throughout the year, anytime we've got like a long weekend or something like that. But
Amazing. That's great. And I love that you're able to make travel such a major part of your life while still living the traditional, like you have a career where you're working in person, like, you have the house, but travel's still like such a huge part of your life. So I just love that. Is your husband, does he work remotely or just he has a flexible schedule?
he does. He works remotely too, and so he's got that flexibility. As long as he's got Wi-Fi somewhere, like he can kind of work pretty much anywhere. So that definitely helps us too. So we don't have to worry. It's really just my teaching schedule that we have to work around. So yeah, I already know next school year I'm going to be missing some dates because we're going to Tokyo. I'm running the Tokyo Marathon next
Oh my
year
God.
and running the Dublin Marathon.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we'll be in Dublin this October and then Tokyo the following March next year. And so I'm already like, okay, we got to figure out how we're going to make these days work and how much time we're going to be able to spend out there.
It could probably feel strange to some people to take time off to travel, but you're like, no, I'm making lessons while I'm out there. I have to go take my personal time and
That
working
that does
too.
that does help when I am missing some time off of school. We were in Alaska last month, had the opportunity to go and work with a hotel out there and a place, to stay and experiences and stuff that I got to do. But I was going out there to create a lesson about Fairbanks, about the Northern Lights for kids and about dog sledding and just the Alaskan, wilderness and lifestyle out there. And so that did definitely help knowing that, my principal knew I was coming back and I was going to be transforming my classroom to look like Alaska. We were going to be doing this lesson about Fairbanks. And so, yeah, so that does help too, though, that I am using my travels to share experiences with the kids and teach them about those places.
Absolutely. So I am curious, is there a destination that has completely surprised you? So maybe not just as a traveler, but also as a teacher, thinking about how to bring it back to your students?
I always wondered if Machu Picchu was worth the hype or not. Was it just a tourist trap or was it actually worth going to? So when we went last summer, I went kind of with an expectation like, okay, this is probably some place that I'm going to go to and be like, yeah, that's cool. But like, all right, then, it's over. It's a place to this day I still can't stop thinking about. It is absolutely 100% worth it. Now, we had a fantastic guide that was with us the whole time. And I mean, the guides really can make or break a trip, right? If you've got a great tour guide, they're
Right.
amazing, fantastic, would give you a memorable experience. And our guide was great. We went with Salkantay Trekking and we ended up doing the 2-day short Inca Trail. So the Inca Trail leads to Machu Picchu. It's one of the, like, I guess it was like maybe the main way that people took to get to Machu Picchu along 100, years ago. Anyways, all day long, we hiked up and down through the Andes. I mean, literally thousands of steps, like times where your legs are just burning. But the views were just stunning of the Andes, just all around 300, 60 degrees, wherever you were looking at, it was just beautiful. It was gorgeous. And by late afternoon, we made it to the Sun Gate, and the Sun Gate was like the main entranceway then into Machu Picchu. And so you're at the Sun Gate and you're looking down on Machu Picchu. and it's just breathtaking, like millions of different shades of green. Like we were there in June, so June was a fantastic time to go. It was just beautiful. And then we saw the view from the Sun Gate, and then we continued hiking down to Machu Picchu where we got a lot closer to it. And that was the end of the first day. And I teared up. I started crying when we got there because I just could not believe that the site was just so beautiful, so much better in person than I had ever imagined it to be. Our guide was looking at me like, oh my gosh, like, what did I do? Did I mess something up? And I'm like, no, it's just like, this is a place I've been dreaming about going to for years. And now kids are going to get the chance to see it too. So we spent that night in Aguas Calientes, which is the little town that everybody that goes to Machu Picchu stays at. It's like a little touristy town. So we spent the night there, and then the next morning we went with our guide back, and we got to hike through the archaeological site then with our guide, and he's explaining the history to us, and you can see just how perfectly this place was built. I mean, these stones are hundreds of years old, and they're still perfectly in place with the walls and everything. It's just mind blowing, and they still don't really know exactly like how these stones and stuff got moved and carried up the mountain. It is
Mhm.
incredible. So Machu Picchu 100% was worth it. But that lesson ended up being like my hero lesson for Passport Adventure. I created a 55-page unashamed plug for it. It's a 55-page lesson for teachers that is a 2-day lesson where they get to pretend to hike the Inca Trail with their students.
I
So back
love
in the fall,
that.
my students, we pretended to hike the Inca Trail that day. They came into school all with their backpacks, and we hiked all around school, up and down stairwells, interrupting classes, pretending to hike to Machu Picchu. That is my absolute favorite one that I offer for teachers.
Okay, that is so great to know. And I love how that lesson sounds. I am curious, obviously, you have kindergartners, but with your lessons, are there any extension opportunities for older kids? Obviously, like, teacher or parent could incorporate that on their own, but do you include any suggestions or like what's the age range that you would kind of recommend that would be suitable for most of your lessons?
Age range, because it's a lot of imagination, I would say they're best for ages 5 up to 8 or 9 years old, so up to like second or third grade. And so teachers, homeschool parents, they can use them too with their students. Most of my lessons have videos that are linked with YouTube that I, have put up there too, and so it's both videos but it's real pictures, it's real videos. That was one of the things I struggled with teaching social studies earlier in my career, was that a lot of our textbooks and stuff, like everything was all cartoon based, like cartoon people and stuff. Like I want these kids to see real places, actual pictures, actual videos.
Yes. So now Machu Picchu, amazing. On the flip side, was there ever anywhere that you went where you're like, I can't really translate this into a classroom experience great, or I don't know that I can really take a lot back from this experience? Like, did
Uh,
anything flop?
I think the biggest issues have just been kind of weather related, more so than like a bad experience in a destination.
Uh-huh.
When we were in Australia, we were in Sydney, and Sydney was a city I wanted to go to ever since I was a little girl. And we were in Sydney for 3 nights, and it rained 2.5 days that we were there. And so it was just like Bondi Beach, pouring rain. I've got pictures of us at the beach in ponchos. You can barely even see. And so while we were there, I was like, this lesson is going to flop because no one's going to want to buy a lesson that shows Bondi Beach just completely dreary and just awful looking. So, but I did reach out. I had shared on my stories a picture of us drenched, and Ted said, hey, can anyone help me out for this lesson? I need some better pictures. And people came through though. And so I did get some good pictures and stuff I was able to put into the lesson. But I do think most of our issues just, sometimes are just working with the weather. You just got to be flexible. Thankfully, we've
Yeah.
never had a bad experience really with people or anything that has made me not want to share about a different destination. So we've been pretty
Hmm.
fortunate with them.
That's
But
great
we've
to
definitely
hear.
had our issues with flights and memorable flying experiences and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Very interesting. I also love that you did like the cruise experience with the kids and everything. So cute. Your cruises have gone smoothly. The reason I thought of this, I hadn't been interested in cruises before, but I recently became cruise curious because it's actually a way to take a break from RV life. Because even when we're somewhere great, it's not like a vacation. But I was like, oh, a cruise would be a vacation. Anyway, very freaked out though after the Poop Cruise documentary. And then now I have
You
heard
can't
that
face that. You
happened
can't face
again
that.
though. Okay, so you're telling me I do not need to worry, I don't need to make this a reason for me not to be going on a cruise?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We love cruising. My husband and I love cruising. We live near Fort Lauderdale. We're just in a suburb outside of Fort Lauderdale. And so we're very close to the Fort Lauderdale port and Port Everglades. So super convenient for us to cruise. We're, 20 minutes away, hop on a cruise ship. And so we've cruised a lot over the years and we love it. We love it. I think it's a great way just to get away, totally unplug. And you have to try hard to be bored on a cruise ship. I mean, you can do as much as you want or as little as you want, but it's like impossible to say that there's absolutely nothing to do. There's always something happening all day, all night long. And so unlimited food everywhere too. Like you can't complain. And so when you break down the cost too of, what you would pay to stay in hotels and paying
Totally.
for every meal and stuff, like cruises actually end up being really cost effective. And so that was a big selling point for my husband when we first started going on cruises. We realized how much this could, yeah, this makes traveling a lot easier.
Yeah,
Every
definitely.
day is fun because every day you're at a new place. And so, you get excited. It's like the day's over. You'll be like, all right, well, tomorrow we're going to this place. And so we're excited. Yeah.
In traveling when you're on your own can be so fun, but there is that kind of mental fatigue, that decision fatigue when you're planning stuff, deciding what to do. So I imagine a cruise just feels so freeing in that way too.
Absolutely. You can be as type trippy, as you want to be, or as go with the flow as you want to. So if there's certain things you want to go, like different sites you want to see, for sure, go ahead, book that. But otherwise, just let the cruise. So they got the itinerary for you. You just show up when you want and take advantage of it. So
I love
yes,
that.
your kids can go around. I don't remember how old your children are, but like they do got other, places where they can go on the ship too, that they can be entertained during the day as well. And so you and your husband can have time to just, yeah, go relax and chill for a bit. So
Yeah, that would be
fun for
amazing.
everybody.
Yes. Heck yeah. I hear that the kids, I forget, the kids zone or whatever, that
Well,
the
yeah.
kids love it and they want to go back and they like request to continue returning. So it sounds like they do a great job. So it's very
Yeah.
enticing. All right. I do have a couple would you rather questions for you now.
Okay.
Would you rather take your kids on a real field trip, but it's like total chaos, as I imagine anytime you're taking kindergartners on a field trip, it is chaos,
Okay.
or just keep everything in the classroom like you do and have it go perfectly? What would you prefer?
I'll bring on the chaos, get them experiencing, just having life experiences. So, but I would plan it carefully and I would make sure that I've got the right chaperones that are there to help because chaperones can make or break any field trip for us. So
Yeah.
I would definitely make sure I've got the right chaperones that I can trust
Yeah.
to help guide the kids. But yeah, no, you've got to mix things up a bit. It's boring to be in the classroom the whole time. And so that's why I like to do classroom transformations and stuff like that too, just because it's just fun to mix things up a bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And would you rather go on a trip where everything is going wrong, but it does inspire an amazing lesson, or you're having a perfect trip, like maybe it's just really relaxing, like you do a full like beach trip, but it doesn't really translate into anything super meaningful for the kids? What would you take?
This stage of my life with where I'm creating these lessons, I'd probably have to take one for the team and deal with whatever comes my way in order to create something that's meaningful because I think of the reach that that could have. It's not just reaching my students, but if I can share it with other teachers, those kids can learn about other places too.
So
But
true.
it's super tempting to just have a trip where we're just totally unplugged, just not trying to create anything anywhere. So,
Do
yeah.
you do you take any of those trips or cruises, I guess, when you're
Sometimes.
like,
Now it'll be interesting when we're on this cruise because we're going on an 11-night cruise. So realistically, that's gonna be like just mind blowing to try to create a lesson for every single spot we go to.
hmm
So I'm definitely gonna have to pick and choose. I'll probably pick and choose maybe 4 places that I really wanna hone in on and create a lesson for. So I'm hoping that there will be just other days where we can just chill. Now we do have some days too that are just at sea. And so
hmm
I will definitely be relaxing with near the ice cream station and the pool deck. And so just not thinking about any creating new lessons at that moment.
That makes sense. Okay, great. Well, Trisha, I just absolutely love what you're doing. You're not just teaching kids about the world, but you're giving them that curiosity, that perspective at such a young age. And that's just so huge and so impactful. And I love that you're sharing it with all the other teachers or homeschool parents as well. It's just amazing. So,
Thank you.
everyone listening, if you're not already following Mrs. De Pasquale, go check her out. I'll link that in the show notes. And especially if you are a homeschool parent or an educator that you just want to bring more of the world into your kids' lives, because there are some really incredible lessons over on the site.
Go to my website, mrsdpasquale.com. That has a list of all of my lessons, and then I'll link you directly to those and how to get those. My motto, with all of this is that, the sooner we teach kids about the world, the longer they can care for it. So it's important to teach them as soon as possible.
I love that. All right. And thank you so much for being here, everyone. It would mean the world to me if you'd subscribe, maybe leave a review, come say hey over at Take the Trip fam. Safe travels, y'all.
Mrs. DiPasquale, you opened the door with maps on the wall and the whole world more. Tiny chairs, big wonder, eyes wide open, bright. You bring the far-off places right into the light. A pretend cruise glides by, hands on the rail. Then we set our hearts on a hike with a trail. Bring the world back, bring it back to class. Mrs. DiPasquale makes the wonder last. Bring the world back, teach us to care. Little hands can help the planet everywhere. Machu Picchu morning, boots in a line. We climbed up the paper hills and felt so fine. Then the dog sled day came with a winter song. We leaned into the journey and pulled along. Every little lesson starts with a spark. Every little map leads us past the dark. Bring the world back, bring it back to class. Mrs. DiPasquale makes the wonder last. Bring the world back, teach us to care. Little hands can help the planet everywhere. Now we see the oceans in a shell by the sink. We hear the forest breathing when we pause and think. From classroom to the planet, our loving starts to grow. She gives us back the world so we'll know what we know. Bring the world back, bring it back to class. Mrs. DiPasquale makes the wonder last. Bring the world back, teach us to care. Little hands can help the planet everywhere. Little hands, big dreams, big sky, small room. Mrs. DiPasquale helps the whole world bloom.